May God be with you all.
Here in the first half. And Bedard steals the pass. Trying to save it in bounds. He threw it out of bounds. Now Mason at the right side of the lane, and Bedard knocks it into the fourth row. What a block. That brings them up on their feet. The fans from Mountain Valley are standing and cheering. He came out of nowhere, and he blocked that off the court and into the third row. Look at this. Watch it. Volleyball spike. Long wham. There it goes. Rebound down to Doug. He'll go up again into the day of one. Here's the guard at the buzzer. It's the one shot that goes in. Is there anything this kid doesn't know? Oh, man. 2 seconds left, and he hits it from three-quarter court. Look at this. Incoming. Bang. Oh. McPherson trying to get it across the day of stole it. Ahead of the guard. The jam by Andy Bedard. And now I think we've seen the whole package. There can't be anything left. Here it is, jam.
May God be with you all.
Bedard in the corner. Boudreau's got a three on the way. Bang! They can hit it from outside. Mountain Valley.
When did you know? When did you know how special he was going to be?
Are you kidding me?
Early?
It was rec league at the community center, the Stoot we called it.
Yeah.
He was just, even at that age, which was 6, 7 years old. I mean, he was just head and shoulders above everybody.
Yeah.
I mean, just knew the game, instinctively knew the game. I'll pick on Bedard again, but one of my favorite memories from that point was we played on different teams, and Bedard was on my team, and gets a rebound right into the rim, and he can go right back up with it. But Andy's on the other team, and he's out at the on the wing. He's like, Sean just turns around, passes it.
Oh no!
And off he goes. even back then, we just gave the ball to Andy.
Right. That's hilarious.
But yeah, I mean, he was just, and it wasn't just basketball; it was everything. I mean, golf, ping pong, baseball. He could throw a curveball in little league that no one else could. I mean, he pitched, he caught, he played shortstop. He could do everything, and it was just everything was just natural.
Do you think Joe had a lot to do with? Toughening him up a little bit? From that standpoint.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, we hung out all the time, and Joe would be the big brother. He'd pick on us, and he'd push us around and stuff when we were around. We were scrawny kids, just kind of nipping at his heels, and he would always put us in our place.
Yeah,
but I'm sure he had a lot to do with it. I mean, you look at the two of those kids, and as kids, they were just head and shoulders above anyone athletically.
What was your first couple of years at Mountain Valley like?
It was weird because playing with Andy all the way through, Pee Wee League all the way through, and then I'm a year ahead of him, so we go in as freshmen and we're playing freshman basketball, and it was different. All of a sudden we had to score, and we really grew that year and the next year because as sophomores, he came in as a freshman with the varsity.
Right. And
so those freshman and sophomore years really gave us the chance to play with the ball.
Yeah. Yeah.
And get better.
Yeah.
And then come junior and senior year, it all came together. It was those first couple of years were interesting. I mean, it's the same like Livermore, right? And Jay, you go to separate schools, but everybody, right? And all the little leagues all the way through are mixed, so we knew everybody and we all played together anyway. But yeah, those first couple of years were interesting.
Yeah.
Especially playing without him.
What it's the 1 year, because I graduated in '92 and I'm trying to remember that time. So your junior year is the hole in my memory. Who's You're junior. Who's a year ahead of you?
Year ahead of me was that would be Jason Carrier.
Okay.
Um,
And how successful were they?
Nate.
That would have been
Nate Bedard. You know, Andy was a sophomore, so we went to the Western Maine semis and lost to, I want to say, York that year.
okay.
In a game where Andy had a breakaway and they tackled him, and he got hurt, and you know, he came out for a little while, and then we just, you know, if he's not in there scoring, we couldn't come back. So, but you know, we were good. We just, I don't know what piece we were really missing, just the growth, I think, at that point.
Yeah.
You know, he was a sophomore, so he was still maybe 5'10",
Right.
Still growing, you know, 5'9" maybe.
When did Carter leave?
Carter left after my sophomore year. So Cobras came in my junior year.
Yeah.
And funny story was it was down at Cobras and someone else, I can't even remember who it was at this point, but Cobras was an assistant coach with the Rumford group for a while, and we just heard bad things about him. And so there was actually a petition that went around, and I want to say almost everybody signed it, that we didn't want Cobras as our coach.
No kidding.
And I didn't know. I didn't know either one of them, you know. And looking back on it now, if Cobras is not our coach, we don't win.
Right.
I mean, he was a big piece of the way we came together. I mean, he was a hard coach. You know, no getting around it. We did tryouts without basketballs for 2 days. I mean, it was conditioning, and he would tell us we're going to be the best conditioned team in the state, and it was knees to chest, and it was foot fires, and it was. I mean, we seriously did not touch a basketball for the first 2 days of tryouts.
Yeah.
No, and then we'd make cuts after that. It's like we didn't even play basketball.
That's gutsy. That's gutsy. Yeah. That's good. No, Andy praised him. Andy praised him quite a bit. I gave him a lot of credit for as good as you guys were, and the way that you defended that, you know, the way that you pressed 94 feet and just relentless, you know, defensive run and jump type defense that you guys played. I mean, you had to be in fantastic shape.
Yeah. I mean, we went about 8 deep, and we went full court, fire and ice. That's what he called it, fire and ice.
Yeah.
And Cobra's a big part of that.
Easily.
Looking back.
Think Andy's the best player ever come out of the state of Maine high school?
Of course.
Yeah.
I'll never say anything different.
No,
if you just look at the high school stuff, you know, and like you said, even with only 3 years, what he was doing was just incredible. And
Agreed. I think talent and skill, the eye test, right?
Yeah.
Just the eye test and watching him play, and obviously.
You look at conference too, right? I mean, we were obviously Mountain Valley Conference. We're a B school. We're playing a lot of C schools, but Christmas tournaments and summer tournaments, we played Lawrence one year, who won states in A. It was between our junior and senior year, and we played them in the summer and beat them by 30. Right. It was Andy. I mean, Andy just absolutely destroyed them. After Carter left, he went to Westbrook. He invites us to his Christmas tournament, and he has all these local teams, us, and then this Hill House, Connecticut team. Right? They're all 6'6". And Carter invites them there just so we don't win it, right? And they beat us. They beat us in the finals by 5 or 6 points. But even against them, Andy was just unstoppable. Yeah. To the point where these kids on the other team were just like, Maine, who is this guy? You know, he just eat us up. And it just, you know, games like that, he would really just, you could see that level just rise, you know.
Right. But he lifted you guys too, though. What a confidence that he gave the rest of his teammates. You know, I mean, it's you guys could have swagger with a weapon like that for sure. You know,
I always say he made it easy. You know, I had a state record for 20 years that stood. You know, 6 3-pointers, and it's like all you have to do is make the shot. There's nobody guarding you. Right? They throw 3 guys. Gorham came down. They threw 3 guys at Andy, and he's smart enough, and he makes the open pass. And you know, everybody else would just, all you have to do is make shots, make open shots. Right? Play good defense, make open shots, and And when that didn't work, just get out of the way and get Andy the ball. The Greeley game. So before Gorham, we played Greeley, and we only beat them by a point at the buzzer. And that was a game we were down 10 in the first quarter. But those were two of the games that stand out as games where we went into a huddle, especially the Greeley game. We went into the huddle down 10, and he was just like, he looked at everybody and just said, just give me the friggin' ball.
Yeah.
Give me the ball.
Yeah.
And we did. And he scored 34 in the last three quarters, and
Amazing.
Just brought us back. And that state game was just that was his game. Like, we all knew it. That was,
And I know, because Coach Hart was there for a long time, the Camden Hills coach. And there was one point during that run where the announcers were just like, Coach Hart just put his hands up and was just like,
what can you do?
What am I supposed to do? And he had good players around him too. So you can't go run three guys at him. You can't just go do that because it isn't like there wasn't talent around him, Yeah. For sure.
No, and when he's hitting from 6 feet beyond the arc, it's like you can't chase him out there because he'll blow right by you.
Exactly.
And they did that a couple times early, and he went by him and got an easy layup. And then, they gave him a foot out there, and he buried everything that game. It was incredible. I mean, I found myself watching most of that game.
Yeah. We gave Andy a this or that. You watched our show, so we have this segment, called This or That.
Yeah.
And we're going to ask you the same questions that we asked Andy.
Okay.
And I want you to give the answer that you think that Andy gave.
Okay.
Not that you would give, because I already know the first one, the answer that you're going to give. I want you to try to predict what Andy picked.
What Andy picked. Okay.
All right. Red Sox or Yankees?
Red Sox.
Augusta Civic Center or Bangor Auditorium?
Andy. Remember Andy.
Andy. I know. It's got to be Bangor. Even though he only played there once, though.
I know, right? Well, you won't know. You won't know until the episode. When I
All right.
Tiger or Phil?
Andy's a Phil guy.
Better athlete, Joe Bedard or Andy Bedard?
Andy Bedard.
Will Ferrell or Adam Sandler?
Will Ferrell.
The Western Maine final game versus Gorham. His block, his dunk, or his three-quarter court shot?
Three-quarter court shot. You get a burger out of that one.
Dean Boudreau or Sean Spadea?
Dean Boudreau, of course.
NCAA or pro sports?
NCAA.
TJ Cowett or Luther Clay?
TJ.
Coach Cobras or Coach True?
Cobras.
Jay or Livermore?
Jay.
Duke or UNC?
Duke.
And Michael Jordan or LeBron James?
Jordan.
Not bad. You won't know. You won't know until it comes out. I think
probably get them all wrong.
What's that?
I probably get them all wrong.
Some of those are hard.
I'm sure.
The Bangor Auditorium, he only played there one time, but it was
one game.
But it was a 53-point game.
Right.
Yeah.
And a gold ball.
Yeah, right.
May
All right,
God
bud.
be with you all.
Thanks for popping.
Pushing it up. Kicks it back out to Bedard. Thought about the three. Now he takes it. Bedard has it now up top. Grab by Staples in the paint. Pushes it up over. Bedard in the paint again. The scoop. Here comes Bedard in the paint. Up. You want to guess who's going to have the ball in his hands at the end? Bedard watching the clock.
May God be with you all.
5 seconds to go. We'll fire up a long three. Deep three-pointer, he hits it. Around the horn, back to Bedard, long three-pointer, around it comes right back to Boudreau.
So Andy, thanks for coming on. We're all very, very, very excited that you're able to do this episode. It's our 10th episode, so having you on as number 10, I think is pretty perfect. So obviously, thanks for coming on.
Awesome. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah. So Rumford, right? Not Mexico. You're a Rumford guy.
Huge difference. Yes, Rumford guy.
All right. So correct me if I'm wrong. You were probably in 6th grade when the consolidation happened, 6 or 7?
Yep, exactly. Yep.
What was the towns like when that consolidation process was happening?
It was, it was exciting, but at the same time, there was a big rivalry back then, right? So, Rumford and Mexico, even though I think Rumford was Class B, Mexico was Class C, they competed and there was a big rivalry. So you never knew what was going to happen, hopping on the bus with the kids that you used to like battle against, or, kids you're going to try out against, who's going to be the head coach, who's going to be the assistant coach. So there was a lot of uncertainty going on, but it was kind of exciting because I think that if it kind of got to the point where you took those top, 5 or 6 Rumford kids and those top 5 or 6 Mexico kids, hence you got like the Matt Cadet, Daryl Gurney state championship type team. So, but for a little while there, it was a little unnerving because it was the guys that you kind of fought against, and all of a sudden now you're in the same classroom and on the same school bus, and maybe trying to date the same girl. It was a little unnerving, at first, but it really worked itself out in a hurry, and ended up being obviously tremendous for the community overall.
Yeah. So, did you play multiple sports, football, baseball, growing up?
I didn't. I was mostly a basketball kid growing up. My brother was a track star, so I messed around with track a little bit just because he told me it might help me dunk at an earlier age with his plyometric shit that he was doing, and played a little baseball in middle school and played quite a bit of golf in the off season. But for the most part, I was basically a basketball rat.
Yeah. So I think I talked to a few people. I talked to Sean and Dean. I became pretty good friends with Sean and Dean through the college years. They mentioned that they knew that you were obviously going to be a pretty special player early on and into middle school. Was there anything that, obviously Joe, you had a big brother that beat the crap out of you, and what type of influence did Joe have on you through middle school, coming towards Mountain Valley?
A huge influence, because he was 3 years older than me, and he was more mature, bigger, stronger, more athletic. Ended up being a Division III decathlete, for goodness sakes, for a couple of years. So that's the type of athlete I was competing against. And thank God he couldn't play basketball for a lick. Just a stud athlete.
Yeah.
And, he challenged me in every way. And it was kind of a blessing to have a big brother that was, that strong, that athletic, and, to be honest, kind of that mean, to beat up on me growing up. But, he had a huge influence, and it was fun kind of getting the chance to play with him my freshman year, and he was a senior. And, he kind of took on the attitude on the playgrounds in Rumford, which was kind of a fun thing back in the day that I think the kids nowadays miss out on, where, he would kind of beat up on me, but he wouldn't let anybody else beat up on me. So it was pretty cool looking back at it, but definitely was a huge advantage of mine having a brother that was that athletic and that skilled from an athletic standpoint, not a basketball standpoint. But yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. So you're coming up through, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, I think the first 2 years, you came in the third year, your freshman year, I think was the third year of Mountain Valley. Is that correct?
Yep. Yes.
And Matt Gaudette, I believe they went 2 years without losing a basketball game. So you're coming into that program, right? As a freshman.
Yes. Yep. So my 8th grade year, it was Matt Gadet's senior year in high school.
Right.
And, I luckily, like, we had some really cool community members that kind of snuck me into practice. So I had a chance to jump into a bunch of those practices back in the day, and to watch those guys go at it. I mean, that was a pretty special team. And, that was kind of the catalyst of kind of my era, my group with Sean and Dean. I mean, there was nothing else going on if Mountain Valley was playing at home. I mean, you were at the gym, and if you didn't get there at the JV game, you weren't getting a seat. So that kind of sparked that interest, from my era, from my kids in my class. So, we would go and watch them and practice them. We kind of hung on every word they said. It was kind of like what you did in Rumford back then. I mean, the town would shut down. You'd go to the game, and it was kind of like an old school Hoosiers type atmosphere back then.
Yeah.
So you're coming in as a freshman too. At that time, it was obviously a dominant program. What was that like coming into as a freshman into a program like that?
It was familiar for me because like I said, at my 8th grade year, I had a chance to practice with them quite a bit. I played with them in the summertime. I always kind of played up. I didn't have the size, but I kind of played the game pretty well and played with those guys quite a bit. So a little bit intimidating. And, Mark Carter was the head coach at that time. And, I was just kind of going into tryouts, just hoping, to grab a spot on a roster to be able to, not necessarily understand what my minutes would be as a freshman, but just to jump into those practices and get to play against those seniors. And, it worked out really well for me. And, the seniors and my brother's class really embraced me because I'd kind of been around them, my whole childhood. So having an older brother in that class really kind of helped me feel comfortable with that. So, but yeah, it was great. It was like, it was an honor. Those guys were like our heroes. They're winning every game. It's like the Mountain Valley program, state championships, and knowing that if you made that roster when you were warming up, whether you played or not, the gym was full. So it was a really cool experience, to be honest with you.
Fast forward a little bit to your junior year. Before this, Scott and I were watching your game against Gorham. It was I don't know, 44 to 16 or something in the second quarter, which led to obviously an impressive tournament run. What do you remember most about that run that you guys went on?
I remember losing the first game of the year, to be honest. I mean, we go on the road at Lisbon, and we get the old hometown referee type situation, and we're kind of this hype team going in, and I get in a little early foul trouble. Things happen. I think it goes to overtime when we lose the game, and I remember Coach Colbert making us run for the next week in practice and not even touching a ball. And I just remember, like, shit, like, let's not lose again, fellas, because this isn't fun. And, to be honest with you, at that point, we ran the table from there on out. So, that was a great team. That was a fun year. It was very unique in the fact that you mentioned Sean Bedard and Dean Boudreau, Matt Foreman and Adam Dayon, who might have been one of the best defensive players at Maine high school scene. One of those teams where everybody kind of knew their role. Coach Cobras was an old school coach who was able to tell us what he wanted to tell us without parents trying to get him fired. So we kind of knew where we stood. We knew what we had to do. He held us accountable, and everybody pretty much pulled their weight in their own way. And it was just a unique experience with a great team where you had scorers, you had rebounders, you had guys that knew how to play, you had role players coming off the bench. And then you had this, this Milltown behind you, which kind of helped us kind of steamroll throughout the rest of the year. So, but that's, to circle back, what I remember is losing that first game and then running the next week in practice, to be quite honest with you.
Yeah.
So you capped that tournament run off with quite a performance. Was it 53 points that you had in that state game?
State game, yep.
Yeah. Did you know what you had done at that time? And looking back on it now, how special is that performance?
It's definitely more special now because, it gets talked about, and obviously it's in the record books. But, people asked me at the time, I just, I kind of remember starting the game off like 0 for 5 or 0 for 6. And, coming off that Gorham game and like the Lisbon game and the Greeley game and in the Western Maine finals, I felt like this, we had all the momentum and things were going great. And then you get in the state game and all of a sudden, oh shit, first time out, like I'm 0 for 6 and like things aren't going good. And then it just kind of went like, black out from there, so to speak, just kind of got the ball. First 3 went down. And then next thing I know, I get a seat on the bench. There's like 6 minutes to go in the game and we're up by 25. So looking back now, it was kind of a fun, cool thing. But at the time, you're just trying to compete on every possession. And, you always think that the team's going to come back and win. So you're just playing hard on every possession. And, pretty cool to look back on. But in the moment, like, it wasn't like I knew I had 50 something. I was just scared that we needed to win this game and just keep playing on the next possession, to be honest with you. So, yeah.
Andy, real quick, there was something that stood out to me, and I'm Joe's age. I graduated the same year as Joe and played against him at Jay.
Yeah.
So the thing I remember most about that game, it's crazy after all the shot making and stuff, is that when you finally came out, I honestly believe you had no idea how many points you had. I honestly believe you didn't know how much you were up by. I remember you coming to the bench after scoring 53. There's a picture of it on the paper, and he was just exhausted. And that's the way you kind of played. I mean, that's the way you kind of played. It was just pedal to the metal, skill, and whatever happens. And usually everything good happened. That's what stood out to me.
Yeah, no, I think that comes back to like, great coaching and the program and what you were expected to do and playing with urgency and, taking possessions off back then, meant that somebody was like right on your ass in order to take your spot. It might have been a little different my year, but especially in those first few years of the Mountain Valley program, I mean, the second 5 could have started from most state championship teams, to be honest with you. So there was a culture and sort of a sense of urgency when you played where no matter what you did, if you weren't playing hard all the time, you weren't going to play very much. So I think we kind of adapted that and adapted to that. And that's just kind of how we played. We just like, up by 20, we need to be up by 22. Up by 22, we need to be up by 24. And it was just about the next possession and, short memories, you score. We weren't going back on defense and throwing our hands up and shooting bow and arrows into the crowd. And, it's like, okay, we scored, get in our press. Like, what's next play? So, and I think it comes back to that old school Milltown culture started by the coaches. And, that's kind of what the expectation level was.
Yeah, it was fun to watch, man. Fun to experience for sure.
Yeah.
So you have that big game and you cap it off with a gold ball. As a junior, and then you make the decision to go to MCI. What went into that decision, and how difficult of a decision was it for you to make?
It wasn't a difficult decision from a basketball standpoint, more of a social standpoint. I was leaving my my hometown and leaving my friends, and I was really close with that senior class, which made it a little bit easier. So. It was just one of those things where I thought I had a chance to kind of get my ticket out of Rumford and get a scholarship and maybe see where this world can kind of take me on this basketball game, quote unquote. So my AAU team played against MCI early on, and it opened my eyes to how good players are out there outside of the Mountain Valley Conference. And I just realized that if I really want to take my game to the next level, you kind of have to play against those guys, not only in competition and games, but every day in practice is really where you get better and where you grind out and where you kind of earn your stripes. So it was a tough decision, but it was almost like it had to happen. And, getting out of Rumford probably wasn't a bad thing for me at that time either. So, it ended up being, a great move and getting the exposure at MCI that I got, and a lot of the scholarship offers that came in. not just from my own name, but, we had 3 parade All-Americans on that team. So all of a sudden now I walk into practice after lunch and, Rick Pitino, Bobby Knight, and, Bill Self are in the gym watching, those 3 play, and maybe their assistants get a job someplace else, and they're looking at some of our secondary plays, which included me. So kind of thought that might be the case when I went there, and it certainly was a basketball factory, which I wish the state still had that, because I would be bringing my kids there all the time to watch that type of competition for sure.
So you played for Max Good at MCI.
Yep.
Who, when I played at UMF, we actually used to scrimmage MCI quite a bit. So
sorry about that.
I kind of got to know Coach Good. So explain that experience, what it was like to play for Max Good.
So Max is one of my best friends right now, and he's a mentor of mine, and he'll call me up and he'll still yell at me. If I don't answer his phone call, he'll leave me a 30-minute voice message reminding me of who he is and who I was, which I cherish. I just felt that I knew he was a hard ass. I knew he demanded, his players play as hard as possible. He expected nothing but 100%, and kind of knew that going in. But once you get there, it's just at a different level. And probably the reason why I was like kind of a tough college player was because of Max. I mean, he did not allow you to show up at practice even on your worst day and not give everything that you have. And if you didn't give everything you had, you were practicing the next morning at 4 a.m. before school started. Then you'd practice after school. And then if that didn't go well, you'd practice after study hall, because there was no sort of, how many hours can you practice a week back then? So, tremendous experience, just that caliber of coach and talent in the gym in Pittsfield, Maine. I just can't begin to explain it to my AU team and to other players. Like, oh, they were good players. Well, no, we had like 3 parade All-Americans on our team. Like, they were the best players. And that was, in a little town in Maine. So it was kind of a really cool thing that I didn't really know a whole lot about until I got there. So, yeah.
So obviously you talked about the recruiting process and maybe being seen by some bigger coaches. So what was involved in your process, and then why did you ultimately choose Boston College?
I just felt like I wanted to stay kind of in New England, close to home, really close with my mom at the time, and got some really nice offers from a lot of incredible schools. And, at the time, Boston College, obviously academically, we don't have to talk about that. And back then, that was like the real Big East, right? I mean, if you ask me who's in the Big East now, shit, I can't even tell you who's in the Big East. I mean, it changes every year. But back then, you could argue like the Big East tournament ticket was probably the best ticket in town. And I knew that, and I was a college basketball fan. And it just kind of made sense where it was, a few hours from home, and it was in that league, and with that type of academic reputation, just seemed like a really good fit at the time.
So then obviously Jim O'Brien left, took a pretty good player with him. Did that have any impact?
Yeah, a pretty good player that took all my minutes. Yeah.
Did that have any impact on you, transferring to UMaine?
It did and didn't. I was on the fence, and I think that I was probably heading out of there at the time anyway. I just had got to the point where I was a solid role player on that team, which I love that experience. It was an incredible ride, 2 Big East championship, 2 NCAA tournaments, playing in that league against all those NBA players. I just kind of, for me, wanted to kind of see if I could get Maine on the map and possibly get them to the NCAA tournament. And then when I met Coach John Giannini, we just kind of hit it off out of the gate. So that ended up, being a great relationship for me. And I kind of wanted the ball in my hands for 40 minutes and see if I can't, bring Maine to a spot where they've never been. And so, yeah, I kind of knew the team was dismantling. We'd won the Big East. Daniel Abrams was graduating. Scooney was close with Jim, and I knew they were going to Ohio State. And I was thinking about going to Rhode Island at the time. And the Rhode Island coach ended up getting the BC job, and the whole coaching carousel that was going on. I just felt a lot of trust in Coach G, and ended up making that decision and taking a pretty big friend with me to kind of help me with that ride up there.
So what was that like, representing obviously your state? You're probably arguably the best player that's ever played in the state, you know, and you guys set a school record for wins. You know, what was that like? What was that experience?
It was great. It was exciting. It was a little our red shirt year was a rough year to kind of see, it's coming from obviously the Madison Square Garden to Alfond Arena when they're winning 5 or 6 games, and it's a total different atmosphere. So the red shirt year was kind of like Rocky's training ground, right? Nobody's around. We're in the pit. We're shooting. We're doing our home thing, and then we become eligible, and we start to get this fall, and we start winning. We start getting the state behind us, and ended up being a great couple years, breaking a bunch of records and kind of bringing a little bit of excitement to the men's side of it. Obviously, with Cindy, they had more people at their practices back in the day than the men's have at their games. So it was kind of exciting to kind of put that back on the map and try to get that program back pointed in the right direction. And representing your home state. I mean, deep down, as fun as Boston was, I mean, I'm an old school Rumford, Maine kid. So to me, that took a lot of pride in that.
Yeah. Senior year, America East tournament.
Oh, you gotta go there, huh?
Yeah, I just how crushing was that?
It was tough. It was tough because obviously to finish it, I break my wrist in the semifinal games against Hartford, and I think we're up by 20 at the time on some bullshit breakaway where a kid grabs my leg for no reason, and fluke thing happens, and I feel like I'm a really good player, but at that level, when you lose your point guard, I don't care how good of a coach you are, how good your team is. You lose your point guard. It's kind of a tough thing to take when you're trying to get to that next step and get to the NCAA tournament. So it was just, it was hard. Felt like, maybe we wouldn't get there my first year of eligibility, but my second year, bringing a couple other pieces on, kind of developing that culture, getting used to Coach G, all the hard work, all the off-season weight training, summer school, summer training for that moment and that run, and for that to happen was, obviously shock to the system. But, the ride was incredible. I just wish we could have kind of finished it out, not only for myself, but for the state, as we're still sitting here without an NCAA tournament berth. So, I truly believe that we would have been pretty hard to beat in that tournament if we had stayed healthy and tried to finish it off. I mean, yeah. We had all the pieces to the puzzle. We had incredible coaching, and we had some size. When we had this kid called Nate Fox, who I think is the best player to ever play in Maine, and some shooting off the bench, and the chemistry in that team was incredible. So we kind of had all the pieces, and then it was sad to see it fall apart for numerous reasons. But
yeah, well, I know it's no consolation, but the whole state jumped on board. I remember it. 24 wins, right? School record 24 wins, and everybody jumped on that train, and collectively the whole state's heart broke when you wrist it. So
yeah,
if that's any consolation.
Yeah. No. Yeah.
Oh no. Hold on, I think I may have lost you. No, you're back. Okay.
Yep.
All right, so you went to Portugal. Was that immediately following Maine and healing?
Nope. So when I broke my wrist, I had surgery, so I was out for quite a while. I missed a lot of tryouts, and Coach G had offered me an assistant job to coach, and he had said, you know, this is great. Come coach, get some coaching experience, and by the way, work out, use our facilities, run the second team, and practice against us, and get yourself back in shape if you want to play again. So it was kind of a dual agenda where I could kind of understand the game behind, the coach's door and think about the game from a coach's perspective. Then obviously rehab my wrist, use the facilities, and use the gym and try to see if I can get my game back a little bit. So, yeah. So it was 1 year after. So I was an assistant for the year, and then I jumped after that overseas. Yeah.
So what was that like over there, playing over there in Portugal?
Oh my gosh, it was amazing. It was, yeah. Portugal is an incredible country, and the fact, I'm from. You give me a couple $100, I'm from Rumford. I'm happy as shit. They're gonna pay me to go play basketball, and see the world and be in a Euro Cup team. So had a great time. Played in a great club, one of the fortunate club that had some money, actually paid their players, and I think I played in like 16 different countries over the course of 10 months, and basically saved every penny when I was over there, and just it was an amazing experience. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, obviously we fast forward. I know now you're coaching Caden and his AAU team, and pretty talented group. How are you enjoying that?
Oh my God, it's the most fun I've ever had in basketball. It really is. And if you haven't seen us play live, it's a really special group. I'm telling you, it reminds me of like those old school tough teams with this new age athleticism and talent, where I've got a great group of parents that'll let us talk to the kids how they need to be talked to, tell them what they need to hear without worrying about getting fired. It's so unique. I have 7 players. They're all brothers, and there is some crazy, crazy talent on that team, and they don't even know how good they're going to be. They have no clue, because it's the same mentality. It's kind of that old school Rumford thing where they just want to play again next game and go beat up on somebody and go fight and compete. So watching them grow and watching them just kind of their IQs flourish and how they play the game, it's something that I haven't seen in a while in this day and age with coaching, and how gentle you have to be with your kitty gloves with players, and how political you have to be. It just reminds me of an old school team. We just roll the ball out, and they, quite frankly, they just want to kick your ass and keep playing and having fun, So. Yeah.
So more coaching in the future, you think?
No, this is it. This is my ride. I feel like, it's funny because we'll be in warm-ups and another coach, whether we're out of state or in state, and they'll be like, well, which one is your kid? And I'm like, well, they're all my kids. And so if things go well, kind of ride this out as they kind of go through this AU process, and see myself bouncing around watching them all play in college. So yeah, that's it. I'm kind of committed to these 7, and we'll see where it goes from there.
Right. Well, if they have success down the road, I'm sure you had a lot to do with it.
Yeah. You'd love them. You'd love how hard they work. These kids, they just compete, and they take a little bit of, old school coaching, and they understand that there's a mental part of this game, and keeping your composure, and who are you when you just made a bad play? That's the type of kids that they are. So they're unique, and they don't make excuses, and they take full credibility for anything that goes wrong. And I see them playing in college. It's gonna be a lot of fun to watch them play with a couple of really special kids on this team. So yeah.
Awesome.
Thanks for bringing that up, because I love talking about them. I could talk about this team all day.
Yeah, right. I've heard a lot about it. I heard there's some kids from Newport that are pretty freaking good on that team.
There's some studs for sure. Yeah.
Well, that's the serious part of the interview. Your story, your road. We always end it with a little bit of fun.
Okay.
Zach's gonna take it over.
So I'm going to just hit you with some rapid fire, get to know you questions. So just be real quick, answer them a sentence or so. We'll get on to the next one. So your favorite movie genre?
Comedy.
What's your favorite movie?
Hoosiers.
What is your golf handicap?
8, but I'm playing like a 13.
Oh,
That's better than any of ours.
yeah, right.
Yeah. Well, if you play in my group, when you're an 8 and you're playing like a 13, it costs you some money.
Gotcha.
How many hole-in-ones?
0.
What is the biggest difference between Rumford and Mexico?
Oof. You got to be careful because my mom's from Mexico and my dad's from Rumford. Rumford kids are just they're a little tougher and they can outdrink you.
Who is the second best player ever in Maine?
Ooh, second best player ever in Maine. Just because he's a hero of mine, I have to say Matt Cadet.
You get one meal in the Rumford, Mexico area. Where are you going?
Well, it's not open now, but back in the day, it was a tuna fish special at Freddy's Restaurant on Congress Street in Rumford.
It's very specific.
That's awesome.
Go to one-on-one move to score.
Oh, I'm going to my left, step back, splash.
Yep.
Favorite hobby?
Coaching my AU team.
What is the best outdoor court in the Rumford, Mexico area?
Oof. I would go with, it used to be the courts right above the Rumford Elementary School, but back in the day, it was I'm drawing a blank on it because the school closed down. But I'll go with the Rumford Elementary School courts.
The top 3 songs on Andy Bedard's playlist.
Oh my gosh, I would go with. Oh my gosh. Geez, that varies so much. I'll go with. Ooh. Oh my gosh, I don't even have a favorite. It's just, I'm like a country kid, so I've got some softer country music that I won't talk about because Sean and Dean will hear this and they're gonna want to beat the shit out of me. So I got to be careful what I say with that one.
So, if you're the coach, what is your all-time Mountain Valley starting 5? If you're the coach.
So Mountain Valley, so not going back to the Rumford days?
Just Mountain Valley.
Mountain Valley.
Just Mountain Valley. I would go with Adam Dayon, Sean Spadeer, Dean Boudreau, Andy Bedard, and Steve Gonzalez, just because those are my guys.
Wow. Joe is going to be all over you.
Joe wouldn't even have made the team, by the way. But clearly that's a little bit of a Joe. Obviously, Mac Cadet, Verney, Todd Wheeler. I mean, it's too tough to say. It'd be a hell of a pickup game. I can tell you that much.
Good problem to have. And lastly, what's your favorite basketball memory?
Probably that state championship game my junior year, just because, obviously we won it and it was so close with those seniors, and for them to kind of go out on top and see them on the ladders and grab the net, and let me shoot every time I touched the ball and not complain about it once was pretty cool.
Yeah. And the last thing we always do with everyone, it's a little segment called This or That. I'm going to give you 2 options, and you just got to pick one of them. Red Sox or Yankees?
Red Sox.
Augusta Civic Center or Bangor Auditorium?
Augusta.
Tiger or Phil?
Tiger.
Better overall athlete, Joe Bedard or Andy Bedard?
Just because I hope he comes to my house for Christmas this year, I'm going to go with Joe Bedard.
Will Ferrell or Adam Sandler?
Ooh, Adam Sandler.
The Western Maine final game against Gorham, not Bangor, Gorham. The block, the dunk, or the three-quarter court shot?
I got to go with the three-quarter court shot.
Yeah.
I even had my dad actually even clapped on that one.
That was off of Sean Spadea block, wasn't it?
Probably. He'll tell you all about it.
Yeah.
Dean Boudreau or Sean Spadea?
No counter question. Just in
general.
This or that.
I'll just go with Dean Boudreau because he used to invite me to his house in the summertime and let me swim in his pool, and his dad used to give me rides all over town.
NCAA sports or pro sports?
NCAA.
TJ Cowett or Luther Clay?
TJ Cowett.
Wow. Coach Cobras or Coach True?
Ooh, I'm gonna say Coach Cobras, only because I'm scared the shit out of him. He scared the shit out of me.
Jay or Livermore?
Ooh, Jay.
Yeah.
Just because when you went into the jungle and then you had that rubber court, I mean, I felt like you could jump out of the gym in there, and it probably one of the loudest places I've ever played in. That place was rocking.
Yeah, Livermore was terrible.
No. Anyway,
so did you play with Jason LeClaire? Did you play?
He was a senior when I was. He was a freshman when I was a senior.
Okay, so he's kind of associated with the same AU circle I am. His son is a hell of a player.
Ashton,
yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
We still talk now and again.
Yeah.
Duke or UNC?
UNC.
And lastly, Michael Jordan or LeBron James?
Oh my gosh, MJ.
Wow. Clean sweep, I think.
So, Joe Burnham?
Yes.
Okay. I was talking to him today, saying how we got you on tonight, and he had a question that he wanted me to ask you.
Shit.
If you spot him 15 points in a game to 21, make it, take it, can he beat you?
Can he beat me?
You spot him 15 points in a game to 21, make it, take it. Does he beat you?
No. And I love him to pieces. And I love him to pieces, but no.
No.
He's losing 21-15.
Yeah.
He's taking my money on the golf course, though, but not on the basketball.
Yeah. Andy, this was a lot of fun. Thank you so much for coming on. We appreciate it greatly.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it, guys. It's great hanging out. I've watched some of the other episodes. I mean, I think it's really cool what you guys are doing, and keep it going. It's a lot of fun to watch. So appreciate you having me on.
All right. Best wishes as the AAU season kicks off. I'm sure you'll have a lot of fun, and I'll see you down the road.
Please do. Come check us out. Come watch us play. You won't regret it.
Will do, buddy. Take care. God bless.
See you guys. Take care, guys.
Andy.
See ya.
May God be with you all.